Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elizabeth George, Director of Member Engagement and Chapter Development with the American Guild of Organists. And I'm very pleased to welcome you today to the next in our series of leadership talks. It may not be a sexy subject, but let me tell you, it's one you really need to know about, and it is chapter membership dues and income reconciliation. But we've got some great panelists who I knew are going to make it very, very exciting for you. Before I start, I would like to just remind you that you're muted, but we do want to hear from you. So please use the chat button. Don't use the chat button, I'm sorry. Use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. If you use the Q&A, what happens is we get a recording of all the questions that have been posed. And if for some reason we can't answer all of them during this webinar, there's an opportunity for us to pull the report. We'll print out a list of Q&A and we'll put it up with the recording, and this is being recorded, that will be uploaded with the handout. And the recording will probably be uploaded and available to be viewed on Monday, and we will send out a link to you. So let me tell you a little bit about our presenters. I think you've probably both spoken with both of them over the phone and possibly may have met them at a, I don't know, regional convention or a national convention. Molly Davey holds degrees in music education from Susquehanna University and opera performance from the Conservatory of Music at Purchase College. After graduation, she taught K through 12 at the New York Institute for Special Education and began singing professionally in New York and the surrounding areas. As a church musician, she serves as a cantor at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Greenwich, Connecticut. In the summer of 2015, Molly assisted the membership department of the AGO during the busy renewal season and officially joined the staff as membership assistant in April of 2016. Her work includes helping chapter officers navigate the world of ONCARD's chapter administration, and she's excited to share her knowledge in today's webinar. Eric Burke is a fellow of the American Guild of Organists and has served as executive assistant to the executive director at AGO National Headquarters since January of 2012, following 17 years at the Flatbush Tompkins Congregational Church in Brooklyn, where he served as an organist and a choir director. He has served as president of the Associated Music Teachers League, as registrar of the New York City chapter of the AGO, as director of the 2015 Brooklyn Pipe Organ Encounters, and is currently treasurer for the Brooklyn chapter of the AGO. As a freelance organist, he serves as a guest accompanist or substitute in the New York City area churches. So it is my great pleasure. I believe Eric is going to start off with his presentation. Take it away, Eric.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Today we are covering how to track your chapter's dues and contribution payments as close to the time they are happening in order to align financial reports with membership reports. We accomplish this by tracking when member payments are posted in ONCARD, which, if you don't know, stands for Online National Collection and Remittance of Dues. Before we go any further, we'd like to take our first poll for today. For those of you attending this webinar live, we want to know, what office do you hold in your chapter? Are you a registrar? Are you a treasurer? Or something else? So Elizabeth is going to post that poll, and while she does that,
okay,
let's look at the responsibilities of treasurers. From our chapter management handbook, the responsibilities of the chapter treasurer have been provided under Finance on the Chapter Leadership Toolkits page of the AGO website. The duties of the treasurer are to A, supervise and have custody of all financial records of the chapter and keep full and accurate accounts of the receipts and disbursements of the chapter. These shall include assets, liabilities, and fund balances, revenue and operating expenses, and all other financial records and documents deemed necessary by the executive committee.
Eric, I'm going to stop you right there so we can see who's on the webinar today. So the majority of you are treasurers. We have a good majority of deans, membership coordinators, a couple of secretaries, and 11% are registrars.
Great. Can we share the results so they can see?
Let's see. Okay,
Great.
there we go. Okay, thanks.
So I'm going to continue with the slides. You won't see me quite so big on your screen anymore. And part B of those responsibilities was to cause all monies and credits to be deposited in the name of and to the credit of the chapter in such accounts and depositories as may be designated by the Executive Committee. C is to disburse or supervise the disbursement of all other funds of the chapter in accordance with the authority granted by the Executive Committee, utilizing proper vouchers to correspond to the disbursements and keeping accurate records thereof, which pertains very closely to what we're doing today. Part D is to prepare and submit such reports or statements of the chapter's finances and accounts as may be requested by the Executive Committee. Part E, sign and or countersign such instruments requiring his or her signature. And Part F is to serve as a member of the Finance Committee if the chapter establishes one. So let's review those sections of those responsibilities. Because the treasurer has charge of the chapter's money, the various responsibilities of the treasurer tend to be treated more critically than those of other chapter leaders. You probably noticed that all of the list I read above was about responsibility, or, as my first employer in New York City said, about leadership. Leadership is about accepting, and I would add fulfilling, responsibility, not about gaining privilege. So as a treasurer, you write the checks, you report what happened. Hopefully you report exactly what happened and not what we would like to think happened with our money coming in and going out. And we don't really treat this money as our own. It's the chapters, and everybody needs to have a say in how it's spent, and we all need to be responsible for how it's put into the chapter through membership and contributions, advertising, etc. So let's look at those actions that were included in those responsibilities. First, we have record keeping. This means you should use a ledger or some sort of bookkeeping software or a spreadsheet, and the check register does not count. I have a check register that I would never show my accountant grandfather or my accounting teacher because they would just roll their eyes and cover their face. And so you really have to account for every little thing as it comes in and as it goes out. We have revenue management. You want to track the income accurately and according to budget. By the way, we hope you have a budget. We'll get to that later. Disbursements. You want to track the disbursements to a budget and report all accurately with backup receipts and approvals for payments stored for easy reference later during audits. And then the reports, you want to always report income and expenses with a balance sheet as well, monthly or quarterly if your chapter doesn't have monthly meetings, with an annual report at the end of the fiscal year. And then you're responsible for signing payment instruments. And this could be filings with your state government. It could be signing off on a loan or credit arrangement for some event you're sponsoring. It could be signing a contract that requires payment, and you're the one holding the contract. But that would be done with the direction of your chapter's executive committee. And if your chapter does not have a finance committee, I encourage you to consider this so you can find future treasurers and people to help with internal review of reports and audit procedures. I'm on my final year as the Brooklyn treasurer, and I'm looking forward to someone else doing that job because I'm at the end of a term limit next year. So now we're going to take poll number 2. Which chapter officers, oh, I'm sorry, that's not, no, we've already shared the results. Well, I'd like to recommend a leadership training tool on the Chapter Leaders Toolkits page, which provides background to some of what I'm covering today. This is called 4 Things for Financial Responsibility for Your Chapter. And it's by Jeffrey Verkylen, one of our AGO members who happens to also be a CPA. The first thing is tax reporting. We're not covering that today, but if your records aren't in line with all your contributions and all the things you may have gotten money for, if you sell advertising or if you sell something to buy, there may be sales tax due. You have filings due to the IRS, and you may have filings due to your state. With the IRS, you file either the 990 or 990 EZ, or most chapters file the 990N e-postcard, which is for income of $50,000 or less. Your state filings might be to a charities bureau or to some sort of nonprofit entity filing that you're required to make as a nonprofit organization. I'd like to add here that if your chapter sells anything, you might be liable for sales tax in your state. So I'm not going to tell you you are, but I'm going to tell you that you should check with a trusted accountant or tax attorney to find out. Maybe you sell recordings, or you might sell a teaching guide or something that people pay the chapter money for, and it could be considered unrelated business income for which you might owe taxes. Then the next thing is budgeting. If your chapter doesn't have a budget, try to start now. A budget allows the chapter to have a plan as to how its money will be spent and where it expects income to come from. To start, you can use a record of last year's activity costs and income receipts measured against future programming and membership activity plans, and then make a list with those amounts. Voila, now you'll have a budget. It's easier to change a plan at the last minute than to come up with a plan at the last minute or operate on no plan at all. A budget provides a plan for the financial obligations of the chapter, and like my high school choir director loved to say, structure alleviates anxiety. It also prevents conflict. The third thing of these four things is financial reports. Try using the models we have available in the chapter leadership toolkits. They're very simple and they're very easy to read. You will never confuse your chapter leaders with your reports if you use those, and those reports will contain information we're going to show you how to get out of OnCard today. Also, be sure to make reports to the membership, such as publishing the end of fiscal year report in a chapter newsletter. The last responsibility for a chapter is oversight. Audits, whether internal or professional, happen not in order to find wrongdoing, but to increase accuracy, improve bookkeeping methods where necessary, and increase confidence in those persons fulfilling the financial responsibilities of chapter leadership. Persons on the executive committee who are not closely affiliated with the treasurer should make up an internal audit team which reviews records, reports, and reconciliations with chapter accounts at financial institutions to be sure that there's no discrepancies. We all make mistakes, and I would really appreciate it if someone would show me mine when I've made an arithmetic mistake on a report, which has happened. So how do you recognize your chapter revenue? Specifically, dues and contributions, and those coming through OnCard. Did you know that chapter membership dues revenue is the highest annual budget source of income for AGO National and most chapters? How and when do you report the dues payments coming to AGO National that are then forwarded to your chapter? So now we have our second poll. Before we cover that area, we'd like to know, when do you recognize in your bookkeeping records a chapter payment that you make by check to someone else? So Elizabeth, would you put that up? And while we wait on those answers as you take the poll, let's look at the 5 types of revenue AGO chapters have. We have dues. These come through OnCard mostly, but some of you might receive checks that are made out to the chapter, and then you have to forward the national portion of dues to AGO headquarters. So the payments that come in once a month by an ACH to your bank in that deposit may be dues only, or that may be contributions only, or it may be a combination of both. So when you record that, you don't want to record, oh, money from AGO headquarters, and I just put it there, and that's dues. You have to actually read through what we're going to show you in a moment, where those payments came from.
I'm going to share the results. Boy, this is interesting. So 92% when the check is written, and about 13% after deducted from the account at the bank.
So that's the answer I expected, and I'm so glad that 92% said that, because we all know we could create chaos if we didn't take away the money we know we've already spent on something when we wrote the check. I'll get to the reason we took that poll in just a second. The next thing we have coming in are contributions through OnCard, or through chapter web payments at your chapter level, or by checks that are sent to the chapter. So we want to make sure we record each contribution, and there's a legal requirement to acknowledge gifts of $250 or more by an individual letter, and you should probably acknowledge all donors to the chapter at the end of a fiscal year or at some point during the year to thank them for their gifts, and you could ask them in the process of soliciting gifts whether they want their name to be mentioned or not. But they should all get a letter if they're taking tax deductions for their gifts to the chapter that confirms what the amount was, so that they can legally claim that with a backup record for their tax deductions if they take them. The next thing we have that may be coming into your chapter are admissions to events. You may have concerts or dinners or workshops, and those things might be paid online. Some chapters actually collect a monthly dinner cost through OnCard. So there's another thing that has to be tracked when you go into OnCard to see what's going on. Then some chapters sell advertising in their directories, event programs, newsletters, or on the website. That also could be collected through OnCard if you have your members being given the opportunity to make those purchases. And then lastly, we have grants that sometimes come in. That will probably never come through OnCard, but it is something that may be attached to a matching grant that a member gave through OnCard. So all of these different types of revenue streams are affected in some way, potentially, by what's happening in OnCard. So just like in our poll results, you all said mostly that you do it when the check is written, and I have to take up for the 13% who said that it's after deducted from the account at the bank, because it's possible that you're making direct payments from your account through something called bill pay that I use all the time, and your activity may actually be monitored online by you for what's going on. So that's also a fair way to put that. But just like you're doing that at the time you're basically paying the money, you really should probably consider thinking about making the same record-keeping practice of when money is coming in for dues. Now, because the ACH payment comes late, 2 to 6 weeks after a person makes their dues payment, you will probably not be seeing who's paid the dues unless you're tracking it in OnCard. And you'll see that payment, and then you'll go back in time and you'll try to make a reconciliation that way. And if seeing the ACH payments the first time you're knowing about this money, that's really a bit late in the time frame to be doing that. And the thing I like to remember is that you're at a meeting, and the membership person gives the report for how many people have renewed this past month. And let's say the meeting's the first week of October. And in September, 20 people paid their dues. But because those people in September aren't going to be on an ACH transfer to the bank of the chapter until October, the treasurer will not have seen that unless they've gone in to see the activity in OnCard. So this is a really important distinction to be making, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So received is the first thing I would like to put before you about when you record your income. And how you define received we'll get to in a minute, but that's something to think about. Do you record it when it's deposited? Do you record it when it's earned? Or do you record it when it's promised? So received could be when it's posted at AGO National, or payments landing in the hands of a chapter officer directly from the member. It could go to a membership coordinator, who then gives it to the registrar, who then gives it to the treasurer, who then takes it to the bank. If someone made a payment directly to the chapter, which is going to happen for chapter friend things sometimes. Anyway, deposited. This would be when the ACH payment from headquarters hits the chapter bank account, or when you deposit a check received from a member. But do you count the deposit date as the date deposited, or when the bank makes it available for withdrawal, which might be a day or more later? And then our fourth category is earned. This would be when the person's paying the dues that you're able to access that they are able to access all the rights and privileges associated with the payment, such as paying dues on a particular day, and then they contact AGO headquarters to get into the job board or to get access to TAO online, or they call the chapter to get access to the chapter member benefits, like being on the chapter substitute list or the teachers list. And then the last category we have to think about is promised. So I meant to do those in individual screens, but let's take another poll. I'd like to know when you count your income. Do you count it when the money is received? Do you think about it as received? Do you think about it as deposited? Do you think about it as earned? Or do you think about it as promised?
Okay, we'll give them about 5 seconds more. Okay, 82% said that when the ACH transfer arrives from AGO headquarters in the bank account, 14% said when AGO headquarters posts the dues payment, and 5% said when the member pays the dues.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This is very interesting. Now, I have to say before I go forward, you are free to count this money as being in your hot little hands in the chapter whenever you want to. But I would like to suggest that it's really important to make that decision based on good bookkeeping standards rather than what might seem most convenient to you. So what we're going to show you today is how you can get the information a little bit sooner than that ACH payment, because that really is, like I said earlier, working backwards. So let's see some wisdom from the accounting experts. I have a quote that I've just put up on your screen that says, "Recognize income when earned, expenses when incurred." Now this comes from the generally accepted accounting principles, and it is attached to how you record activity using the accrual method of bookkeeping. If you don't know about accrual, I'm sure most of you have probably seen this in some way if you're a treasurer, but maybe you don't use it. Most businesses and nonprofit organizations like AGO National use this method, and that's where you put a portion of each payment you receive according to budget in a bucket for each month. And so it's divided up among the year, and so when you see a financial report, you're accounting for 1/12 of that income that has been received already. So it's compared against what you expected. And this is a method that helps you track all the time what's really going on. The other method, which most of our chapters use, is on our next slide. Recognize income when received and expenses when paid. This is the cash method. Defining the exact point you consider received and paid is important. A hybrid approach will allow for synchronous reporting with membership join and renewal progress. AGO receives dues for the chapter. So if you're going to count received 6 weeks after someone's paid their dues, it's very possible they could pay their dues at the end of your fiscal year. Let's say your fiscal year ended August 31st, and someone paid their dues on August 25th, and we didn't post it till September, and then you didn't get it until October. So it's not a problem, but it's really makes it harder for you to track in line with the membership progress of your chapter when the membership person makes their reports. So I would suggest that you might want to look up when people are actually getting their payments posted at AGO headquarters at the very least. And better than that, if Johnny Jones pays his dues and never got a receipt, and then I have to call headquarters on his behalf because he's called me the treasurer and said, by the way, I didn't get my TAO and it's now October, could you check on this? I'm going to have to know where to look, and I'm going to have to know whether or not AGO headquarters actually processed it so I can give them a way to track it themselves to find out what really happened with his payment. I will also be expected by that member to know when they paid their money if they know that we have this computer system that is accepting our payments online. So I would like to propose that you consider using the payment date as when you receive the dues, because guess what? We're receiving that money for you, and we're all one organization. So when you look at your records, you don't have the money in your account yet, but you know it's going to get there. And on the accrual method, you would have to account it that way because that's when your money was earned. It was paid by the member. We have record of it at headquarters, and your chapter is expecting it. So then it would be divvied up among the 12 months of your fiscal year after that payment is confirmed. So at this point, let's look at this diagram. The member's sitting at his computer anywhere in the world, or she pays dues or contributions online, and then it goes to AGO headquarters almost instantly. Our payments, depending on the payment vendor, might take 12, 24 hours to get it to our bank, and then the next business day after that person's paid their dues, we receive their electronic payment and they're posted each day in our records. Then once a week we make a batch report that Molly will tell you how to find all those records of. And then once per month, everything received in the month previous is deposited to your chapter's bank account through ACH payment. Now at the bottom of each of these sections, I put some terms here for you. When the member pays their when the member pays their dues, we call that the action date in our records. And then when the AGO headquarters posts the transaction, we call that the post date. And then when we send that ACH payment, we call that the remittance date, because we've remitted the dues received on behalf of the chapter back to all the chapters from the members. So when members pay their dues online with National, you might think that they're paying National and then National pays the chapters. Well, that's one way to describe it, but really a member's paying their dues to both, and National simply receives it on behalf of the chapter. So it's received. The payment left the person, they get all the rights and privileges of being a member, and then we just pass it on when we are able to the chapter. So I think Molly is going to give us a great grand tour of ONCARD, where she's going to take us through the member roster, which is where you find when members are due to renew their dues. She's going to show us the member change logs, where you can find when dues and contributions are actually paid by the members. And then she's going to show you how to navigate the Remit Reports. So,
okay, before we do that, before you get started, Molly, David Nichols did make a comment that I'd like to share. After we absorb the transition to delayed remittance through OnCard, payments crossing the end of the fiscal year are about the same every year. Total dues for the year are the same, whether we count paid dates paid or dates remitted. Anybody want to comment?
That's correct. And everybody can continue to do your counting of the received date as when the ACH payment hits your checking account. But I would recommend that you reconsider this on behalf of your members, because they have paid you in a certain time frame, and if we're not counting it, then as you have to go back and look for their needs, it will be more confusing for people who take our jobs from us in the future. So you can do it however you want to. And if you've already done it one way that's working for you and it would cause more chaos to change that method, then I think it's perfectly logical to keep going the way you're doing it. So Molly, it's your turn to show us what OnCard does.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. And the first thing that I'm going to show you, so my task today is to show you how to make a monthly report. And we are going to use July as the month and the Brooklyn chapter as the chapter that we are going to create the report for. Before you even start your report every month, you should go into the member roster and just take a gander at where you stand with your membership renewals. And you can do that very easily. I'm sure that all of you as chapter officers have seen this screen before. It is the chapter administration screen. And I will show steps of getting here later, but we're just gonna look at the member roster very quickly. So you go to the chapter administration menu, you click on member roster, and there's a whole bunch of ways to filter records. My favorite way is to do it by expiration date. And since we are going to be doing a July report, I'm going to put in July 1st. And it has to be in this format of month, /day, day, /year, year. And then because I don't want to scroll through a lot of pages, I'm going to change the records to per page to 100. And I'm also going to make the people who need to renew percolate to the top. And so I'm going to do the sort order as ascending. Then I'm going to hit process. And all of the people who are in need of renewal are going to pop to the top. And before this webinar, we had a question about rolling dues. Many years ago, we changed from everybody, all of our members having a July renewal to our members having rolling dues, which means that there are some of your members will have July, some of them will have August, some will have September, and all through the year. It really is based on when they have joined AGO or when they have reinstated their membership. So currently we are giving a 3-month grace period. So these people up here in July, they are about to be canceled. During the grace period, anytime during the grace period, they can renew and they will remain on that July renewal cycle. As soon as they are canceled and they will reinstate, it's very easy to reinstate the membership and it shouldn't be anything that scary, but they will start on a new month. So if, for example, Pam let her membership be canceled and then she decided to reinstate and she reinstated on October 22nd, then her new anniversary would be, she would be on an October cycle. So her expiration date would be October 1st of 2021. All right. And are there any questions as I get my PowerPoint up to be shared?
Oh, well, there was one question. Do the names of members given to our chapter treasurers accompany the verification of their on card? I think she meant to say, or they should. Absolutely.
So that information can be found on the Remit Reports, and
Okay.
we'll be looking. So all of the details about the payments, including the member's name, will be included on those Remit Reports. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen again. Yep. And are you seeing a screen that says chapter dues reconciliation? Yep. Oh, perfect. All right. So we are going to create a monthly report. And we are going to use the change logs. And I'm not sure what happened. We are going to use the change logs and the remit reports. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to make a chart, because these are the things that we're looking for. We're looking for the member's name, the date the payment was made, the date the payment was posted, the amount, the reason, either a renewal or a contribution, and then the type of membership. And you can write this just quickly on a piece of paper, or you can open an Excel spreadsheet and do it that way, whatever you're most comfortable with. The first three we are going to find in the member change logs. So, as promised, I will show you how to get to that chapter administration window. So you're just going to go to our national website, and in the upper right-hand corner, there's the member login. And for this exercise, it is best to use Firefox, Safari, or Internet Explorer. Remit Reports do not like Google Chrome. In fact, all sorts of weird things happen when you try to use Google Chrome and download a Remit report. So I prefer Firefox. That's my preference, but Safari and Internet Explorer work well also. And you're going to put in your login credentials. And if you ever forget them, please feel free to call National Headquarters. We're happy to provide that information. Then you're going to get to the chapter. You're going to click on Chapter Administration from the ONCARD menu. And to find those first three things, we're going to go to the member change logs. Once again, we're going to filter the criteria. And we're going to filter it. We're going to add an action date. And because we're doing July, we are doing a July report. I'm going to put in the day June 25th, 2020. It's always good to give yourself a little bit of a buffer. You don't want to become frustrated trying to hunt for information. You want it to just kind of be there. And if you add a few days of buffer, it will. Also, I always say, change the records per page to 100 so you don't have to switch through pages. You can just keep scrolling down. Unfortunately, on this page, we don't have a sort order, so I can't make that the it into ascending order. So after you click search, you're going to have to scroll all the way to the bottom because that's where June 25th is going to be. I know that June 25th is going to be there, but we're going to start looking at July 1st. We just have those extra days there just in case we need them. The important action types that we're looking for are this RENW and dues payment. For each membership renewal, the member's name will appear beside both of these action types. So they will appear twice on your change logs. Renew is the date that the member made the payment, and dues payment is the date the payment is posted. Renew will always come first chronologically. So we're going to start with July 1st, and we see that Eric made his payment on July 1st. And then we go up and we see the dues payment was July 2nd. So we can start to fill out our chart. We can put Eric Burke's name. We can put the payment made on July 1st and the payment posted was on July 2nd. We continue up and we see Thomas Sarf, but we only see dues payment, which was made on July 1st. So we only can put his name and the payment posted date. We don't know when the payment was made, and that's why we added those extra days, because we're going to scroll down and find out when he made that payment. And it just so happened that he made it on June 30th. So I have a question for you. Should he be included on your July report? If you said no, you are correct, because his payment was made in June, and we are making reports based on when the payment is made. Let's move on. Next, we come to Henry Lee, and we see that he made payment on July 2nd, and the payment was posted on July 6th. And the reason for that big gap between the payment made date and the payment posted date was because there was a holiday. It was July 4th, and the AGO office was closed for a couple of days. Now, what about line 35? That looks like it deals with dues. If you're ever confused by an action type, you can always look to the right and there is a description. So I'm going to highlight the description for line 35, and it says dual chapter added, C208, which is the Brooklyn chapter. And it means that Henry added Brooklyn as a dual chapter. Now you're probably getting the hang of this by now. And so we're going to go through the rest of the July activity pretty quickly. I've color coded it, and we can see when the member made payment and when that payment was posted. And we can create our chart. Now, I have a question for you. We see that Jackie Jones made her payment on July 31st, but her payment wasn't posted until August 3rd. Should she be included on the July report? If you said yes, you are correct, because she made the payment in July. And here is the final, or the first part of our report complete. Refresher. What else do we need for our chart? Well, we still need the amount, the reason, and the type of membership. And we're going to head over to the Remit Reports for that. So from the chapter change logs, you can scroll up on the page and click Return to Chapter menu. And then you'll click Review Remit Reports. The next step is to find the pertinent report numbers. So you're going to scroll to the bottom of the screen and click the caret next to Select Remit Report. This gives you the report number and the day that it was created. As Eric said, Remit Reports are created once a week, but we only deposit money through ACH once a month. So we are definitely going to include all of the reports in July, created in July, but I always like to add one or two just so we have all of the information. We give you the opportunity to run the report in two ways. You can run it as a PDF or you can run it as an Excel. We are going to start by learning how to run it as a PDF. Helpful hint. When you are creating a report, you have to put the report range next to the PDF if you want to create a PDF, or the report range next at the bottom next to Excel export if you want to export the report in Excel format. It is important for all other fields to be blank. That's really, really important. So we're going to create this PDF and we're going to enter the report range 366 to 371. And then we're going to click Create Report as PDF. Now there are a couple of ways that a PDF will download. Sometimes it goes to your download folder and other times a pop-up window appears like it does on my computer. And I just open the report. And here we go. So now we're going to look at the information given to us on the PDF report and fill out the rest of our chart. So from report number 366, there are 3 people on it, but 2 are crossed out. And it's because we found out from the change log that Thomas did not pay in July. And we realized from the post date that Aaron didn't either. So we can just eliminate that information for now. They will be included on different reports. So we can see that Eric, that $41 will be going to his chapter. The reason is dues, and we get that from secondary chapter dues. And because it's secondary, it means that he's dual member. Next we go to Henry Lee. It's the same thing. And we go to Stephen. And on this, on report 370, there are 2 people. And then on the final one, we see Jackie Jones, and she was so generous and made a contribution at the time that she renewed. So she will get 2 lines on your report. One is for her contribution, and the other is for her dues. So now you can put it all together. And this is a sample report, one that you could share with your board for your July activity. And you should always put the totals at the bottom, the total for July, the total for dues, and then the total for contributions. So now we're going to go back and we're going to create the report as an Excel and kind of see how you can put the report together using Excel. And for this, I'm going to go back to ONCARD. So now is a good time if you have any questions while I get this set up.
I don't really see any, well, let's see, a list of how to use OnCard and move from one thing to another. I'm not quite sure, but we're going to have this recording, and someone was worried about Google Chrome not using it. We will be calling you, and we will be sharing directions to a couple of these questions here.
Excellent. All right. So we are back and we're at our very familiar chapter administration menu. And we're going to go into the review remit reports. And we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And this is where you can create your Excel export. So we're going to put in 366 to 371. And we're going to create that Excel export. And this pop-up window will say an export file has been created. You can just click OK. And then you have to click on the word here in red. Once again, it depends how your computer downloads information, but mine does a pop-up window. And this is the Excel report that is generated. And as you can see, there are a lot of fields that we just don't need. And so we can erase those. So that is the first thing that I would do. I would erase the things that I don't need. So the first three, all of these things about organization. And then everyone knows their own chapter's name, so we don't need that field either. This new member field is really important if you have a new member. And if you did, if one of these people was new, there would be an asterisk. But since there is nobody new in July, we're going to delete that too. You can also delete these first two entries because we've decided, or we have, from all of our hard work in the change logs, we've realized that Aaron and Thomas do not belong on the July report. They belong on a different report, on the June report. So now we have most of the things that we need for our list. The one thing that's missing is the payment made date. So we can insert a column. And if you don't know how to do that, all you do is highlight a column and then go up here and insert, and one pops in. And then you can put the payment made. Another curious thing about the Excel export is that it gives the amounts in negative. And I'm going to show you how quickly to change those to positive. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to multiply all of those cells by -1. So you're going to put -1 in a cell. You're going to highlight it and go up here to copy. Then you're going to highlight all of the numbers that need to be changed. You're going to go up here to paste. You're going to go to paste special. You're going to make sure that you put a dot next to values and multiply. Click OK. And they've magically all changed to positive. You can also do an auto sum so that Excel does the math for you. So you just put your, you highlight the cell underneath all the amounts, go up to formula, to auto sum, and click enter. And there you have it. So now we're going to go back and see how you can reconcile the payments and look at the details and when the ACH payments were made for you or made to your chapter. So this is just all of the things that we just did. And here is your final report using Excel. It looks very similar to your final report using the PDF. It's just two different ways of doing the same thing. Am I sharing my screen?
No, we're not seeing it.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me get that there. Okay.
There we go.
There's your final report. It looks very similar to the one created using the PDF. So how do you make sure your chapter received the amount due? So your monthly reports, the ones that we just created, that sample one, will not match a monthly deposit made into your bank account. As Eric said, the money can arrive 2 to 6 weeks from the time it appears on a remit report. And members who are renewed in July may not be included on the same ACH payment. I would suggest making an extra column on your chart to include the date your chapter receives the payment by ACH. And so I've done this for the Brooklyn chapter. And as you can see, the ACH, there were 3 different deposits for the July activity. July 15th, August 14th, and September 18th. Now, where do you find this information? Well, if you remember that big list of things that I scrolled through on the Remit Report page, you'll notice that there's a key. It says Funds in Reports, blank to blank were remitted on a certain date. So as long as you know the remit report number, you can find out what date that the money in that report was deposited into your account. So if you can see in Eric was included in remit 366, and 366 was included in the July 15th deposit. If you go back, 367 to 370 were included in the August 14th payment. And so that's how you match up the remit reports with the date the payment actually was made to your chapter. The final thing that you should check is to make sure that the report, so if you want to make sure that if you want to find the details behind the deposit, you just use that key and run a report for that report range. So as you can see from this, if you wanted to check the details behind the August 14th deposit, you would run a report from 367 to 370. And you could run it as a PDF or as an Excel, and you can just make sure that the total of the report matches the total of your deposit. And you'll know who the money is for. If you ever need any help, please give us a call. We're here, and I'm happy to walk you through any of these steps over the phone. And I'm going to give it back to Eric.
I have a couple of questions here, and one is a very good question, actually, but I think two people said, I don't have Chrome. All I have is Chrome on my laptop. What do I do? How can I get to, you can download Firefox. Yeah, it's very easy. You can download Firefox. You're not forced to just because that's the only browser that came on your laptop. You can definitely download Firefox. It says if you're on a Chromebook, you cannot download Firefox. Well, you can download Internet Explorer. Thank you, Leah. Okay, Leah's saying no. Okay, so this poor person that only has a Chromebook, what is he going to
Elizabeth,
do?
can I help out here?
Yes.
Chromebook is a Google product, so you will not be able to download any other browser onto a Chromebook. It's kind of a difficult thing to expect to do everything on a Chromebook. My wife has one and we use it all the time, but there are many things we just have to go to a different, provider of hardware to do what we got to do. If you want to download Firefox onto a computer, you can do that. Please keep in mind that eventually we will have a different method for all of this. This is just what we have right now. And in the future, we expect that it will not be dependent on certain browsers to be able to function correctly, and probably Chrome would be one on which it would be expected to function perfectly. If you are using a different browser and you want to change your default browser to that browser, you just open the browser and go to the settings and make that your default browser. I want to thank Molly for such a wonderful tour of ONCARD. And actually, I should say it's only a small part of the tour. And I want to also point out that in that July was my July I had to live with. So we were involved with looking at months from June through September. Someone shows up on our payment received in July who paid their dues in June. I paid my dues on the first day of the month, and we got the money only 2 weeks later. And then someone paid their dues at the end of the month, and that was part of August, so that money didn't come in until September. So this sort of proves my point about the desirability of placing all of your members' activity in 1 month of financial records for your chapter. I completely understand if you don't want to agree with me, but this is actually a good hybrid approach to what I talked about earlier between the accrual and cash methods. And when you have membership reports, especially once you get over 60 members coming into your chapter executive committee that don't match the finances, people think something's wrong. And an explanation that, well, it comes late, really isn't giving your chapter the ability to track and promote renewal of membership, and that's one of our biggest challenges right now. If you're looking ahead and you're counting things as they happen, you can see who's renewing and you can see who's not renewed yet, and you can remind people before they become canceled. I saw a question in the Q&A that said, why do I have a member that says canceled followed by one who says invoice not paid? Well, canceled means they've passed their grace period and they've automatically been canceled in the system. Invoiced not paid means they're still within the grace period. We've sent them an invoice, they just haven't paid their dues yet. So you'll want to use that as good information for how you communicate with your not yet renewed members, remembering that maybe they just forgot, or maybe they didn't actually get the invoice we tried to send them. So you'll want to structure your conversation around that so you don't falsely accuse that they haven't paid yet. They could have actually written a check and it's still in the mail. And so I just want to do a brief recap of what we looked at today. So I'm going to share my final slide, and let's talk about what we did. First thing is we want to keep track. We want to check member rosters for renewal dates and see what's going on, what's about to go on. And I might add that, in the accrual method, you want to have something called, accounts receivable. You're expecting income. And if you don't record the income you expect based on budget, you will not be going after that income. If you think about that, that's just the way I know it. Then you want to watch your progress. See what's happening in the chapter change logs. It's very possible. I've had a member pay their dues and we didn't actually get their money until 4 months later because it just missed our batch posting at AGO headquarters. So mistakes are possible, and it would help you in your record of what's going on with your memberships to be sure you're looking for what got missed. It may show up in the member change logs, but then it didn't come out in the remit reports or your ACH payment by amount. Then you'll want to make sure you review all the remit reports, and you want to reconcile those with what actually happens later and before in the member change logs. And the fourth thing, you want to decide on received date practice and record them in the chapter ledger. Like I said earlier, you can keep doing it however you want to do it, and if it would cause great havoc to make a change in that practice, I understand not changing. I would probably do the same thing. But it is good to track the money according to when the activity happened on the member side rather than when it hits your bank account from after AGO headquarters receiving the money on your behalf. And then the last thing, make sure you reconcile all your ACH deposits with remit reports to be sure payments are recorded accurately and only once. It's very easy to accidentally count something twice when there's this difference of month going on. Like I gave the example, we also had a member pay their dues at the end of May, and then I paid mine at the beginning of July. And so I saw all of this thing in one place, and then I saw the other thing that Molly just showed us, where we had a confluence of payments all dealing with trying to only get 1 month's record of payments out of it. So I want to emphasize that Molly and I and everybody else at headquarters are here to help you. And if you have any problems dealing with OnCard, please give us a call, and we'll be glad to take you through. And we can log in as you and see exactly what you see on the screen so that we can help you understand how to make this work best for you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Molly. We did have a question, which I thought was a really, really good question. I'm glad that he asked. He said, I just started as treasurer. Where's the best place to start? Well, I would definitely go to the chapter leadership toolkits, because this handout is going to be there. The information that Eric shared about Jeffrey Verkuylen, there's a wonderful document there for you. There's a sample budget. There's a sample reporting. There's a lot of good information there for you. And I don't know if I can share, let me see if I can share my screen and get to AGO. See if I can do that. Okay, so here we are. We're on the AGO home screen. Here's where the toolkits are. If you go under membership, there's a drop-down menu, and here are our chapter leadership toolkits. And if you scroll down, we're always adding to these. So we've got membership dashboards that show where we all are as an association month by month with membership information. And we have toolkits that support each position you serve on your board. But here you've got responsibilities of treasurer. You've got a sample from Fox Valley of a financial report, sample chapter budget worksheets and balance sheets, and the document that Eric was referring to, the top 4 things for financial responsibility for your chapter. So I would really start with that because it's wonderful, it's great, it's very clear. And again, we're also going to have a recording of this. And we don't expect you to know everything. There's no reason that you should. So again, that's why we're here. We are here to help you. We're happy to answer any questions. Don't just try to fumble around in the dark. If you can't locate your previous treasurer, or perhaps maybe that person might not be the best resource, the team at AGO is here to help you. So I just want to add a couple of things regarding your membership roster. You know, it's a great way for recruitment because there are people that have dropped who might be interested in coming back now. We've got a lot new webinars, we've got a lot new programming that we've created online. So I would look at some of those drop numbers and really go after them again. As Molly mentioned, for many years, people joined, their annual join date was in July. And as you know, as we shared, we have during these last 6 months of COVID-19 given you an additional 3 months grace period. Well, the month of October is the end of the 3rd month for those that joined in July, and that's still a great large part of our membership. And we currently have 600 plus members who will be dropped in October. So I know we have some deans on this webinar. Look for an email that will be coming from probably myself, from Molly, from Leah Semikin, our chapter relations manager, encouraging you. There'll be a spreadsheet. It might just be 3 or 4 members that still haven't renewed. But if you add that up times 282 chapters, making time to make those calls is really going to make a difference. And I want to say thank you ahead of time for doing this. And if you don't have the time, there are other people on your board that can do it, because you know what my favorite expression is. Membership is everybody's business. So I'm just going to give a couple of promos. On October 23rd, our next leadership webinar will be on keeping chapters healthy in the time of COVID-19. And that's going to be presented by the Committee on Membership Development and Chapter Support. And then on October 30th, for you deans, we've got a great webinar that's going to be led by some of our regional counselors on the benefits and the challenges of serving as chapter deans. So I encourage you to sign up for these. We'll be promoting them there. You can look under upcoming webinars and sign up there. And I'm just going to end again with some encouraging words. We do have a new Chief Technology Officer who I believe was attending this webinar, named Joshua Freeman. And we are searching for new association management software. And I feel very strongly that we're not going to have to wait too much longer before we identify one that is going to work. It's going to be easy for you as chapter volunteers to use, make your lives much easier, and on the back end as well for staff. So I'm just going to say thank you again to Molly and to Eric and to all of you for what you are doing, because if you weren't doing what you're doing, there would be no AGO. So you are the AGO. We feel very blessed to have you, and we can't thank you enough. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.